So happy to have another episode of Real Estate. Today we have Caroline Magdaleno. Sorry, I blew it.
You got it.
Marketing expert and really just, I would say, pro networker. That's kind of how we met. And
appreciate that.
You know, glad to have you on and would love to kind of hear a little bit more about you before we get into kind of what you do.
Yeah, so what I do is I own a real estate consulting company. We emphasize mostly on branding, marketing, and business development strategies, which is where networking has been the greatest platform for that for a lot of people. So I support people in pretty much getting their name in front of their ideal clientele. So I've worked with everyone from agents, lenders, escrow companies, inspectors, roofers, pretty much everyone under the real estate world. So yeah, and pretty much coming up with strategies on how to get them in front of who they need to be in front of.
Yeah, and if you could tell me a little bit about kind of how you got your start in marketing in general, and then maybe how you landed in real estate. I know you kind of dabbled in escrow for a bit.
Yeah. So I studied PR. So that was kind of a natural progression into marketing, right? They go very hand in hand. As far as I came from the fashion world, actually, from the fashion industry, and came into real estate, in the escrow aspect, and just realized that the power of networking and how connecting with people in this industry can really transform people's businesses. And it came very natural for me to strategize with other people on what they can do to amplify their reach and what they can do to really connect organically with the people that they want to connect with.
Yeah, and I think it'd be like really useful, if nothing else for myself, like for you to tell me kind of what networking means to you and like how you network, because I go to a lot of networking events and I try to chat with as many people as I can and, make friends. What do they say? Shake hands and kiss babies, right? But good, I didn't flip that. But when I go to events and I see you there's literally people coming up to you almost constantly. You've like really made friendships with people, and I'd kind of like to understand that a little better.
Yeah, so a little history on that. When I first came into the industry, networking was my full-time job. Not selling whatever business or whatever service I was selling, networking became my full-time job. So I would network every single day. I made it a point to really get my name out there. And another big thing that was very important for me was getting involved with nonprofit organizations as much as I can. A lot of people think that you have to be asked to go into nonprofit organizations. I made it a point to ask, hey, how can I help? So that became a big PR platform for myself. It was doing that. But it's really important when you're in a service-based industry, which has been my entire life. So even when I was in fashion, it's still service, it's customer facing. Really, your interaction with other people is what makes you memorable. Maybe they won't remember your name right away, but if they're able to remember you, and if you carry a certain energy once you're around people, and you make it a point, when I first came into the industry, I made it a point of I'm going to talk to X amount of people, and I would steer away from going to the same people that I already knew. And initially it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but you have to put yourself there, right? Even some people say doing video is uncomfortable. Unless you do it, you're not going to get used to doing it, right? So I would make it a point to really, like you said, shake hands with everybody, introduce myself to people that I didn't know. I did also leverage social media mixed in with that. I made sure to also virtually try to network with people as well and try to make myself be seen on Instagram, on Facebook as well. And it came really naturally. And then, trying to be a part of the community as well, whether it be volunteering for nonprofit organizations or just being a part of community events, I think tells your prospective clients that you care about the community.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned nonprofits, right? There's a woman, Stephanie Lloyd, who's a realtor, and really the way we connected was she was basically posting on LinkedIn like this street sleep thing that they were doing for San Diego. Gosh, why am I messing this up? It's basically San Diego Youth Services. And when you're helping someone with a nonprofit that they're at least putting out there, it must be something that they're somewhat passionate about, Was that kind of what was behind your drive to get involved with nonprofits, or what was the reason that was like the direction that you chose to go?
Yeah, for me, as a part of my business, I have to have that, I guess, altruistic aspect of my business where I am helping others in one way or another. Of course, if it puts me in front of my ideal clientele, that's a win-win. And it's been very organic for me to gain business from volunteer work.
Yeah.
Of course, when you are serving on nonprofit boards or committees, you are giving your time for free. However, you see the return eventually in your business. But yeah, to me, supporting the community and really having a cause bigger than my own business is something that motivates me. And it's almost, I have to do it. There was a time when I wasn't doing any volunteer work and it didn't feel really organic for me. It's a part of who I am, and it almost drives me to do better in my own job.
Yeah, and I think like going back to kind of the networking thing, and maybe part of this is through the nonprofits that you've worked with and that sort of thing, but you have now kind of networked and gotten to work with people that you probably didn't expect. I'm sure you didn't, your ideal target wasn't necessarily roofers originally, and now you're kind of like getting to work with developers now, right?
Yeah. So it happened very beautifully that just from networking and through my nonprofit work as well, once you start connecting with people, it becomes this beautiful web of everybody kind of knowing each other and a big referral system. And that's something that I really pride myself in, is always wanting to connect people. And eventually it brought me into my ideal space in real estate, which is the development world. I met the right people at the right time, met the right architects, met the right civil engineers that wanted support with their business. And, from also networking, I see the opportunities. I know the investors, so it's a very organic way for things to come together. But yeah, it's brought me into the development space, which has been kind of my goal as far as real estate goes, is to enter that space. But all of it came also from the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, and I think so. What you're saying as far as getting this through networking, it's given not only the opportunity for you to connect a lot of people, or for you to utilize your connections to get into that ideal target audience that you've wanted. And it's funny that you said earlier, before you were a full-time networker, that was like your job. I feel like that's kind of elevated, and now it's more that you're a connector. And I'd like, if you've got any kind of stories about either ways that someone's connected you to a person, or maybe some of your favorite memories of connecting people with other people that's been really successful.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones was actually kind of earlier on. I also served with NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. I served on their board as well. And, when you're in the nonprofit space, sometimes budgets are a big thing. And I needed a photographer for an event that would do it pro bono. They were newer into the industry, and they did listing photography. They did all kinds of, photography. And so simply by and I had already connected with this person, and simply by asking, hey, would you mind coming and doing this event for me? I'll introduce you to everyone that I know, very warm welcome. And, later on, years later, he mentioned that moment of me inviting him to that event changed the trajectory of his entire career. And that, the few connections that I made for him that day then branched into others, then branched into just countless referrals. So that's one of my favorites, because it was somebody that came and did something out of the goodness of their heart, right? To support that event that day and to support our nonprofit organization. But then it changed his business dramatically. So that was one that was like very close to me, close to my heart, was because he thanked me. And he's like, not only that, but did I learn how to approach people better? I learned even what I could do better in my own role as a photographer from that one day. So that's probably my favorite one.
Cool. And you mentioned NAREP. That's not the only thing you do. I feel like I see you at every single thing. I think originally when we met, it was through VA Rep, mm-hmm. and more recently I kind of got to understand a little more how you got involved in that. But it'd be good, I think, for other people to kind of understand your story, and not just kind of what your title there is necessarily, or because I know you do a lot more than that. So kind of how you got involved in that, what they were looking for, and how you've been able to serve them.
Yeah, so with VA Rep, the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals, sometimes it comes off so easily and other times not as much. Yes, but with VA Rep, they, through COVID, had a hard time maintaining the organization. Every nonprofit organization had a hard time through COVID. So the year that I was brought in, they were relaunching the entire organization. So pretty much from scratch. And through my connections and people that I know, they know that what do? I build businesses. Yeah. So, they reached out for me to support them in all these ways possible. And that included events, that included fundraising, that included getting memberships, really getting the eyes on the nonprofit organization, which, coming from my PR background, it was very organic for that to happen. Coming from my marketing background, it was very easy for me to understand how to help the organization get more eyes on them. And, we've seen such a dramatic difference. At first it was, what is VA Rep? What is VA Rep? Like, there's a nonprofit organization for veterans, and living where we live, everybody should know about this nonprofit organization, and everybody should be supporting it, because we're supporting our veterans that have, fought for our country, helping them obtain home ownership, and that we should all be standing behind that.
Yeah, and when you're saying that, right, they came to you needing help with branding and that sort of thing. One thing I wanted to touch on just now that you mentioned is PR. So, when people are looking for marketing and that sort of thing, realistically, what we're trying to do is exactly what you said: get in front of the right people to be seen and recognized, right? And I don't know how much of the PR work you do is like, there's so many publications out there, right? There's always a magazine, a newspaper, and especially with online, like so many things. Is that a big part of what you do with people that are looking to build a brand?
Yeah, I approach it more on a branding aspect. Every person has their own brand, their own personality, their own brand voice that can speak volumes to their exact target clientele, right? You have your own, to each their own. There's so much business to go around that really, when we brand ourselves properly, and what is PR? It's free advertising, right? Free publicity. So when we brand ourselves properly, we're very easily going to attract people that are like-minded to us. So what I really focus on is branding the person, branding the values, branding the story behind the company. And that seems to happen. That seems to bring in very natural PR for the people in the companies that I work with.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to kind of what you do. Marketing is such a general term, but I don't want to butcher this. So I would rather you say it for yourself. But we were talking kind of about what you're most passionate about. And essentially it was helping people, build their business. I don't know if that was a poorly worded way to say it.
No, that really is what it is. What I do, because I've been in the fashion space and because I've been in customer service roles, I really understand what the customer's looking for. I really understand that you're supposed to solve a problem, right? I really understand what is going to not only attract, but bring back clients to you. So if you're able to really speak on that, which has been natural for me because of my entire work history, right? And studying PR. My favorite part about what I do is helping others grow their business. I have started businesses. I've helped businesses at seed level. I've started several of my own different businesses. So really helping other businesses is what is deep in my heart and is at the root of what I do. Obviously, yes, I want to be as successful as I can be, but if I can help other people along the way through connections, through maybe giving some advice on how they can brand themselves better or position themselves in front of their clients more dominantly, if I can help in any way possible and it helps the livelihood of others, that's exactly why I do what I do.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I would like you to touch on a little more, going back a step to VA Rep, is because you do so much, kind of what changes were there to make, if it wasn't like drastic changes that you had to make in their marketing plan to get more coverage. I mean, it's well known now. I feel like everybody I talk to either goes to VA rep events or at least knows of them, you know, which, I mean, there has to have been some pretty big changes to go
Yeah. Also, the board of directors right now are very passionate people. That is the number one thing that has made the difference, is the people that are serving on the board really truly care about what they do and go out of their way to try to promote our cause, to try to promote our events. And it's a little bit of everything, right? You have to, luckily I have a lot of experience in events. You have to know how to put on a good event that brings value to people. And not only that, but to bring the right people that will then bring the right people and make people want to return. Another thing that we've been really focused on this year is we do educational events every month, and we try to keep them relevant. As opposed to doing the same events that we did last year. No, what's going on right now? Okay, we have Senate Bill 9 that just passed. We need to do that. We need to educate our community on that. When we have a change in social media, we'll do a social media event, So it's of course we want to educate on VA loans and on how agents can best serve their veteran clients, but we also try to be as relevant to what's going on right now. Our industry changes every second of every day. Yeah. So if you're able to bring relevant value, just organically you're going to grow. The viewership and our attendees and our memberships have grown, I think, both, yes, from networking events, but also in the education that we're providing that is present to what is happening right now.
Yeah, and I was at actually one of I think the social media one that Scott Evans was at, I think Rand from Foundation Escrow. And some other people, Destiny, a realtor. So and that is especially impactful right now when everyone is trying to build a brand. And a big part of that is your online presence. I talk to people about that all the time. I don't necessarily love Instagram or something like that, but at the same time, instead of people going online and Googling your name, they're punching you into a social media platform and seeing is this person a professional? What do they care about? What do they do in their free time? And that's something that I think is really valuable. And I have to commend you, because putting asses in seats is literally the hardest thing in the world. I do a fair share of events, whether it's a comedy show for fun or if it's like a Poor Decisions event that I'm doing for affiliates, whatever, and getting people not just to say they're going to come, but actually be there and participate is super, super difficult. So
And that's why. And yes, we're strategic about who we're partnering with. We are strategic of, we're going to bring the number one VA lender. We're going to bring one of the top social media agents. We're going to bring the top branding photographer, So we're strategic about who we're bringing, because at the end of the day, if you're taking your time to come to my event, I need to provide value to you. I need to educate you. I need you to leave feeling like you learned something, whether it be you made connections or really you left more educated on whatever the topic is. That's what keeps people coming back. And I think that's why, you say we keep growing. Yeah, because we make sure to focus on educating and on partnering really with the people that have already shown the success, have already shown that they, have paved the way for themselves in the industry. So that's been something major for us too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the quality of people that you have on a panel definitely makes a difference. If somebody is up there saying whatever, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds good, but have you done it? Who are you to tell me anything? I think that makes a big difference in the topics themselves, whether it's social media, SB9, there's a million things out there. This is kind of coming full circle a little bit here. Earlier, we were talking about kind of working with developers, and you mentioned that was kind of an ideal target.
Yeah.
Who is an ideal client for you? Who are you able to benefit the most, that you have the most experience with, to provide that value exactly to, or just...
Yeah, so I guess a little background on me. I came into the industry, I hit the floor running, right? Networking was my full-time job. And everyone everywhere kept telling me, you should be a real estate agent. You should be a real estate agent. For whatever reason, I don't feel called to be a real estate agent. However, the development space is something that I was very intrigued in. So I would put myself in those rooms. I would put myself in the rooms that were people that were already doing it. I would try to go introduce myself to the people that were already doing small developments or ADUs, and slowly but surely, I just grew my connections. And to the point that now when there are development opportunities, and these are multifamilies, but smaller multifamilies, people come to me because I also know investors.
Yeah.
So I'm able to very easily pair the two. Yeah. And that's been, I think, my favorite part about this industry and about working with developers is, changing the city, making the city better. We need housing. So if I'm able to support that, if my connections and the hard work that I've put into the industry the last however many years, if that can benefit our city and house more people here and support veterans and, help people with their homes, help people with their businesses. If, some investors have the money, but may not know how to even come across these deals. So if I'm able to bridge those two, if I'm able to make those introductions, I mean, what better thing? Yeah. What better thing to do?
No, exactly. And I mean, when you help somebody, that's the easiest way to build a relationship, to show value, is to help somebody. And there's so many things you do. I'm wondering, like, kind of what the majority of the challenges are that people come to you with, that they're trying to overcome, or that you kind of specialize in, that people say, oh, you need to talk to Caroline. She'll be able to help you with that.
So consulting is definitely an investment. And the industry right now is, I don't know, you pick a word.
Interesting.
Interesting. We'll say interesting, right? And so sometimes taking that leap of faith of the investment, of seeing like, okay, I've tried this, and this, but it hasn't worked. Maybe I do need to speak to a professional about this. Maybe I do need a little bit of extra help. That has been something that I think people have been a little bit hesitant on, and you have to invest in yourself.
Totally.
You have to invest in yourself. So, if what you're doing isn't working and you're not figuring out how you can best invest in your own business, then things aren't going to change. As far as the development space goes, projects can just fall through.
Yeah. Investors
can pull out. So it's not always, hi, I'm here and I'm helping develop this.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of things that happen within, there's a lot of things that can happen in a transaction. And so the challenges could be few or many.
Yeah. Well, a big part of why I asked, I have a big involvement in the Building Industry Association, and the majority of the developers that we hear from are a lot of times are the big guys, whether it's Lennar, Shea, KB Home, those kind of people. And I'm interested to know what smaller developers, whether they're building for rent or for sale developments, right? Like, we need housing one way or the other. Like, there's a need for rental housing because the lack of that is what's causing the cost to go through the roof, and the lack of for sale houses is what's causing the prices to go up, why people are paying way over asking, waiving appraisals, inspections, and all the rest of it. So it's interesting to hear kind of like what on a little bit of a smaller scale, the challenges that they're having, and how, having someone who's in marketing, which might not be the first person you turn to, right? If you're a developer, maybe you're looking for, you're looking for investors, probably marketing isn't the first thing you think of.
Right.
But that being, again, it's a connection, right? You are able to connect them.
And so many people don't know that they can become investors. So many people don't know, let's say, for example, SB9, that it's actually really realistic to get into it. You don't have to be a huge developer to get into the industry. And so, I think educating yourself a little bit more on just the different opportunities, the different zoning, and what areas are in need of housing can be so enlightening. And start looking. With the last project that we did that was an SB9. Literally it was looking for large lots that had small homes on it. It was that simple.
Yeah.
Large lots, small homes, So, I think a lot of people don't even realize that it's feasible to get into the development space as well.
Yeah, and you saying that, it's simple, right? It's not necessarily simple. It's simple to you because you understand that, right? I've done a decent amount of business consulting. Either you can look me up, Gold Standard Solutions.
Okay.
But you're not really able to help people in the way that most people advertise they're going to or that they want to, unless you step into their clothes and understand their business from the inside out
and get gritty with it.
Exactly. And then it becomes simple to you because you know this world, you live in this space, and then it's easy for you to say, hey, you know, this is who we need to connect with, this is the direction we need to go, and all that sort of thing, because you're fully invested in that business, right? It's every business is totally different. So what worked over here, you know, like what helped VA Rep grow to be what it is today, may not help a developer, right? You have to change yourself and basically, you know, transform to fit the business that they're in. So I think it's important. It's great that you see it as simple, but I think it's important to recognize the reason you find that simple is because you've done it.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that is the combination of like, there's been a time when I've been brought in to do the marketing for a potential project, right? Or there's been another time where I've been brought into a project because they know I'm connected. You know, they had the land, but they needed somebody that had the connections to the builders, to the investors, to, you know, however it was going to be structured. So again, that comes back to me full-time networking when I first came into the industry, was that people know I'm connected, right? So yeah, I mean, you're right, and I didn't mean to make it sound simple.
No, I just wanted people to realize.
Because believe me, I've worked. But yeah, no, you're completely right. Like once you get into it, and you know, educating ourselves as much as we can, and trying to put ourselves in situations where we're around people that inspire us, where, you know, they say like, be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I think like you're just like the perfect example of when people say your network is your net worth. You've built such an like impressive network, and I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this. I hope I can help expand that reach a little bit, and more people can understand what you do and how you can benefit them. I'm not sure if there's anything we really haven't had a chance to talk about yet that you wanted to touch on.
I think we're good.
Okay, well, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you at networking events.
Yes.